Hello and welcome to another episode of the First Deal Diaries. Today we have an international guest with us. This is Zac from Dubai. Hello, Zac.
Hi Danielle, how are you? Thanks for having me
I'm
on.
good. How are you?
Yeah, well, very well, thanks.
Good. Welcome to the podcast. We're going to talk a little bit about what it's like investing from overseas, as well as the actual HMO deal that is very, very nearly over the line. Is that right?
Almost final few weeks, yeah, a couple more weeks, and then hopefully we'll have it tenanted, or at least the first few tenants in. So, yeah, final stretch now. Looking forward to
Brilliant.
it.
All right, great. So, first of all, you're based in Dubai. What does that mean? What does life look like for you based in Dubai and investing in the UK?
Yeah, I mean, I've been here nearly, 10 years now, so it's home, I would say. Definitely, moved out here for only a few years, as we all do, and then, we end up growing a family here, staying here for the long term. So yeah, it's very much working across time zones, which is pretty natural for us after this amount of time. But yeah, still got family back in the UK, and we try and get back when we can.
So, your day-to-day job, because you're still working full time, you've
Mhm.
got a creative background in, I'm not even sure I can say this right, experiential design. What does that mean?
Yeah, so in layman's terms, it's from the architecture interior design space that I sort of studied, and then came into the world of events and experiential design, which is basically designing experiences. So it can take a variety of different forms, whether it be live events, conferences, fan zone experiences. It's thinking about the full, when you arrive in a space, what your full user journey would be from start to finish. So it's all very creative, and my family don't really know what I do still, but yeah, it's what I do say mostly is interior design, but with a bit more different components. So
Okay. And what about your property business, Hazel Green Homes? What's the vision for
yeah,
that?
yeah. So it's a company that my wife and I, Rachel, started just over a year ago, and yeah, our vision is to really focus on high-end HMOs, and bring that sort of experience that I have in my field, but also the experience my wife Rachel has. In she's also a creative, and so it's to bring our vision of creative spaces to life through property. And in this, our focus at the moment is on HMOs. So we're trying to really create a product that we would like to live in ourselves, but also we know that it's going to appeal to a wider market.
Excellent. So, why property? What made the decision? What was the moment where you thought, oh, there's something we could do here?
It was genuinely a light bulb moment. Even though I designed houses and interior spaces, it hadn't really occurred to me a few years ago, I think start of 2023. And I literally had a light bulb moment, sat by the pool, obviously in Dubai. Won't go on about the weather too much, but um, it was reading Property Magic. It was a book that I'd got given by a friend of mine, sat on my shelf for 6 months, actually closer to a year. And it was the first time I'd ever read something about property that I just instantly got, and I felt it quite easy to understand some of the strategies. Um, and at the time, I was sort of thinking about, the future of my career, 5, 10, 15 years down the line. And I just this is the first thing that has come up where I could replace my income, and potentially retire early. So it sort of kickstarted this whole property focus as the side hustle. And then it's just sort of obviously something we've committed to for the past couple of years.
Excellent. I had a very similar experience. My husband read Property Magic and he was like, you've got to read this. And I
Yeah,
think I read it in like 2 evenings after the kids had gone to bed. And I was like, it does. It changes your life overnight, doesn't it? The same book, Property Magic. It's a must read if the listeners haven't read it for sure.
absolutely.
So that must have been quite a mindset shift for you. And then to think, well, let's invest back remotely in the UK. How confident were you that you could do that? Did you think you could do it on your own? Did you want to get educated? Was that book alone enough to get you started?
Yeah, it definitely Definitely was more of a comfort knowing that we had a base back in the UK of trusted people that we could connect with. But I think the training and the knowledge side is something we definitely wanted to do before going down this path on our own. So we signed up to the Mastermind Accelerator through PIN, just as a sort of first port of call to actually learn all the strategies, make our mind up for what we wanted to focus on, and also have that knowledge base. You know, even when I'm designing, like you need the foundations there to actually build and grow on. So it wasn't really a too much of a long decision process. We just decided we'll do the 3 days and see where it goes from there. And then I think we went in not wanting to do the mastermind full year, and then by day two we were like signed up, 12-month program, let's go. So it just sort of what we found the power in was the network, particularly being overseas. We were obviously paired up with the hybrid first year of physical and digital in the room, and so it naturally felt for us a really great move to build that network on the ground, because we've got no intention to move back to the UK. So it was just about building that network, those trusted people we can rely on, and also immerse ourselves in that community.
So you had a property in Dubai, which you were actually renting out as serviced accommodation, but sort of my understanding that was a bit of a fluke. You didn't really know what you were doing and you let that go after 18 months. Is that right?
Yeah, didn't know what serviced accommodation was, but we just said, oh, we'll Airbnb it. So it was the way that it works in Dubai is a lot quicker than the UK. So I think from reading Property Magic, we actually purchased a two-bed apartment in the marina 2 weeks after
Oh,
reading that book, and it was on the market within 12 weeks. So from obviously completing and then a small refurb. Um, and yeah, we sold that asset because after we did the learning and the training and focusing on what our strategy was going to be, it just didn't really fit for us. Service accommodation wasn't something we wanted to focus on in Dubai. It's a very saturated market. So yeah, we decided for now at least to focus our property investing back in the UK, and we ended up selling it for a 70% return on our original investment, but it
wow.
just wasn't making the monthly cash flow. So
Mhm.
month to month, we didn't make much, but at the end, we were able to obviously capitalize and just secure our residential home here.
So actually, during the process, it may not have felt like a deal, but on the exit, actually, you got quite a good deal on that one then.
Yeah, exactly. And we learned so much about the service accommodation industry in Dubai, and also the good bits and also the bad bits. So I think it was a good taster for us. But again, I think just with infinite desert here, property investing, and there are deals to be made here, but I think for us, we just wanted to, prioritize the UK. And again, we don't know how long we're going to be in Dubai, but at least we've got our home here and as a base, and then we can sort of move freely in the future.
So at what point did you decide to focus on HMOs?
That was pretty early on, to be honest. I think cash flow was one of our big uh, focuses from the accelerator and the learning. So we wanted to obviously replace our income, and we found that HMOs were a really good way to do that, particularly starting out. And also with the type of product that we wanted to curate, I think that interior design angle, the co-living high-end HMOs just naturally fit our eye a bit more.
Mhm.
Um, and so that was something that we just, again, we tried not to get shiny penny syndrome. We
Yeah.
we spent the first 6 months of our mastermind year really trying to not be motivated buyers, and to focus on getting the network, getting the right people behind us to then obviously dive in and secure that first HMO. So yeah, it's definitely
You
something that.
you
Sorry.
pursued a couple of deals before finally settling on this one. Tell me about those.
Yeah, so they were in not in the same area. They was with our focus area was South Yorkshire and Derbyshire. So there was a couple of properties we had offers accepted on, and upon further deep dive analysis with our coach, which again was we would have probably gone with those deals if we hadn't had the coaching. But I think just on we were so desperate to get a deal. We were sort of, you know, not being really truthful and realistic with some of the figures, and we missed a couple of things completely honestly. Um, and we ended up pulling out of them. So whilst it was frustrating that we spent most of our mastermind year, sending out campaigns of letters, we were in contact with landlords, letting agents, we were doing all the right things, but nothing was really coming through. And it was only just at the end of our mastermind year that we secured our first deal. And that was more through the networking and the team that we put together that really brought that to the forefront for us.
I think it's really brave when people pursue something and then realize it's not right and decide not to go on with the deal, because I think there's a fear that by pulling out there'll be egg on your face, but actually if you do a deal and it ends up being a bad deal, that's even worse. So I think you've got to have the confidence to not be a motivated buyer and decide what criteria you want for a deal that makes it work for you. So what did
Absolutely.
you end up buying?
So we switched areas slightly. I think one of the things that we had learned was we're not back in the UK. I'm from Sheffield originally. I've not lived in Sheffield for 15 years. And so we were very much focused on areas that I claim to know, but I've actually not lived there for, over a decade. So we actually found a team that were more of a turnkey service that would help us source the deal, build it, manage it, and that's effectively what we need for being expats. So we actually shifted areas and we bought a mid terrace in Derby, which there was obviously an article for that has just come in this year. And yeah, it was a pretty standard mid terrace, nothing to shout about. It needed a full back to brick refurb, and so that was purchased just under a year ago now.
Okay, so you mentioned there something about Article 4. It wasn't in Article 4 when you had your offer accepted, is that correct?
No, so Derby had no Article 4 before May this year, and Article 4 came in, which would have meant if we'd have tried to do what we're doing now, we would have had to go through planning because that area is now under Article 4. So we managed to, we did miss the deadline due to the things that we'll talk about soon in terms of the build complications. But ultimately, we were managed to get a certificate of lawful use from the council, which basically gives us the right to finish the HMO and get it rented out, and it gives us the right to operate that in the future. So that was really important, and it was a big sigh of relief when that came in. And it was obviously a backup plan that we had in place to ensure that obviously we're not doing all this work to then not be able to rent it out due to licensing and permission issues. So
So that's a great little learning point then for people that are starting out. So look out for those Article 4 areas. But I know quite a few HMO investors, they try and find properties just on the edge of those Article 4 areas as well, because you don't have then to go into the planning permission. But also, as you say, you get advance warning usually of when Article 4 is going to come in. And it's a
yeah,
great opportunity then to be one of those last few HMOs in what will end up being an Article 4 area, which is what you did.
absolutely. I think there's definitely going to be a bit of oversaturation during the time of Article 4 coming in, but I think as obviously time passes, that sort of calms down, and over time, then you've got more of you've got a better asset because you have an HMO in an Article 4 area. So there's definitely downsides to going
Yeah.
with Article 4 areas, but also there's upsides in the long run.
Absolutely. Good. Okay, so all is going well. You've got the keys, you've got your build team in, back to brick. What happens
Yeah.
next?
So we took it back to brick, as in all the floors got removed. It was literally a shell. And then our builder passed away, quite sadly. So our lead contractor, so that was 8 weeks in. Huge shock, obviously. And again, with the team that I had on the ground, it was about trying to find a new builder to take on this project. A big
So
learning
that
is that
that
no,
meant you lost the whole build team because he was the head. It was his
yeah,
building company. Wow. Okay.
exactly, yeah, yeah. So we had to replace the whole build team. The issues that did cause were obviously we had to let the lender know because we're switching build teams. We had to obviously the remaining money didn't obviously line up with the new quote because no builder likes to take on work
No.
that's half done. It's not like for like. It's not just slotting a new build contractor in and it running that seamlessly. So that's why contingencies are there. We've used up our contingency from the lender to sort of cover that. So we were back up and had people on site within 2 weeks, and that was very much down to the project management team that I had in place in securing that. And again, whilst we're going to take a hit financially, the main thing was to get the project back up and running. Because at the time, we still were aiming to complete before Article 4, but we unfortunately missed it. But yeah, that was the big element that happened quite early on. And everyone says your first deal is the hardest. I didn't think it would be this hard, and I didn't think it would be this unique, but it certainly has been one for the
How did you
future
deal
to
with
tell
that
stories.
stress? Yeah, well, it's a great, yeah, interesting story, and I'm sure you're not the only investor that has happened to. But
Yeah,
how did you manage that stress? That must have put you into panic mode, making the call to the lender, letting them know you're on bridging finance.
yeah,
So, you could have had a massive delay, but like you say, the team around you stepped in
yeah.
and
It was definitely scary. Not going to lie, there was some sleepless nights, and I think ultimately I just had to focus on one problem at a time and just trust that it will handle itself by doing the right things. I reached out to the network. Obviously, we know quite a lot of people in the network that were the go-to people to ask, and they sort of just confirmed what we were doing was the right thing, which is reassuring. So we didn't really have to second guess ourselves. But yeah, it was stressful. It's a bit of an event that you don't really ever plan for or foresee happening. So it's one of those that, whilst it was obviously on one side very sad, we had to keep it moving, and it was just a focus on getting the ball back rolling again.
I think you're absolutely right. Property, whatever stage you're at, beginning, multi-million pound deals, whatever stage, it can be very overwhelming. I think you're absolutely right. You need to think, what's my next move? You
Yeah,
put one foot in front of the other, slowly take action. And like you say, then the process starts to look after itself. So I think that's great advice. So the Article 4 deadline was looming. What date did you say that was?
I think it was May 5th
May 5th
that
this
that
year.
came in. Yeah, yeah, that was in, and we sort of we knew that pretty soon after the new build team came in, we knew we were going to be pressed to make that. So I think then we started with our backup plan, which was the application for the certificate of lawful use, which we got, which then obviously released that pressure valve of needing to get it done before May. So now it's just, yeah, we've experienced a few more delays here and there just with the build itself, but yeah, that was once we got the new build team back up and running, that was then the big focus of getting that in place, because it was either that was going to make or break the deal effectively. So glad we've got it.
Absolutely. So, how did you get that certificate then? Was that an application to the council for that certificate? Is that almost like a planning process or
Yeah, to be honest, this is where I just lent on someone who knew what to do. This was my team that did it for me. I would say it was an application that got sent in, and my project manager handled it and basically let me know when the application was submitted, and then I got an email about over a month later that it had gone through. So yeah, that's something where that I would overanalyze it, and I needed just to sort of use someone's expertise to do it for me. I also just didn't have the time to be worrying about that. I'm paying a project manager for a reason to do that for me. As long
oh,
as I was focused on the 10% of what I needed to focus on, that's what
yes.
my thought process was.
Excellent. Okay, so you are a couple of weeks away now from completing the refurb and being able to start getting tenants in.
Mhm.
Where are you at with that bridging deadline?
So the bridging deadline is towards the end of this year, so we still have
Okay.
time. However, I think we obviously spent some time at a training this summer where the valuation was a big discussion point, and I think that came at the perfect time for me, because I've actually decided that making that 12-month deadline isn't the most important thing. The most important thing is achieving the right valuation. and I don't want to undersell myself on that. So I understand the late fees that are going to be associated with running over, and I'm happy that I've made the decision that I'm okay if we do that, because it's a very relatively small cost compared to what could be, a huge chunk left off the valuation if we don't have the right ASTs and the final product finished when
Mhm.
the valuation's going to happen. So we're probably going to miss our lending, I feel. Um, but it's more of a conscious decision that's been assessed, and I think it's the best way to move forward. And I've discussed that with my solicitor and broker and everything, and it feels like the best way to move forward. So again, try not to worry too much about it, but we want to get it wrapped up as quickly as possible. But again, not to shoot ourselves in the foot after we've obviously gone through this whole process. The main thing is getting that valuation right at the end.
And that will be done through a process of sort of manipulating almost which valuer you will use on the
Exactly.
property, and presenting a valuation pack with comparables, and hopefully by then you'll also have tenants in, which will show proof of income, and all
Exactly.
that good stuff. So that's
Yeah,
great.
I think that's it. We're at the finish line nearly, and it just feels like we need that little bit of extra time just to make sure that we do ourselves justice with it, really. So
Absolutely. I think that's great advice. So what was the purchase price? Let's just talk some basic headline numbers.
yeah, so it was 161,000 we paid for it.
And your build costs?
So the build costs were originally 165. However, we used our contingency, so the difference has sort of gone up to 195. So an additional
That's a massive
30,000.
build. That was quite a large build cost then. Does
Yes.
that include all of your staging and interior design?
No, that was an additional on top of that. So our furniture was on additional, but actually, interestingly, that when we switched build teams, there was a bit of the scope that we had to cut out that the new build team wouldn't take on, just from a cost perspective. So I actually brought in a specialized interior design team to actually do the furniture, the
Wow.
interior design as well. Try not to do it myself. And that was additional cost. But I think the reason, again, it comes back to we've gone through all this process with Article 4, with the oversaturation potentially. I wanted to make sure our product stood out. So for me, it was about investing a bit more in terms of the interior design and the look and feel to achieve those top market rents and obviously attract the best tenants. So that was a decision that we made halfway through. Wouldn't usually do it at midway. Wouldn't recommend that. I would say get all your FF&E and specs locked in before the build, but that was just how we had to pivot during this one.
Sure. So what's your GDV and anticipated cash flow each month?
So the GDV pre-valuation was at 475. Our projected cash flow is between 1100, 1250, conservative numbers.
Good.
And our return on investment has sort of taken a bit of a hit. That's gone down from 25% to just under 17%.
Okay,
So
well,
it's
that's
still
still
above. Yeah, the stress test was still above 15%. And again, obviously, we've got a good idea of bills because that's all been sorted out. So I can sort of see where I'm sat with that. It's now just going to be where those rents come in. And obviously, the valuation itself could be more than the pre-val. So that's sort of where we're at numbers wise.
all right. So, overall, then, what advice would you give to somebody who lives abroad but thinking of investing in the UK?
Get your team right, 100%. That's
Yeah.
the biggest thing is that definitely try to do too much of it myself, being abroad. Whereas actually getting people who've done it before, know the area better than you, and have more time to do it, just is a no-brainer. So it's the team is the most important thing I've found, 100%.
Absolutely. So overall, then, we are very nearly at the end of doing that deal. Quick question for you.
Mhm.
Was that HMO deal, is this HMO deal a good deal?
I
Would you do it?
think, well, hindsight's a wonderful thing, right? So I would definitely do it again. I went into this deal knowing that this deal isn't going to give me financial freedom on its own. It was, for me, it was more about the learning experience and actually doing it. And I could have overanalyzed and underanalyzed deals for the next 12, 24 months.
That's very true.
It's hard to say whether I would have absolutely decided to do a HMO when we did it. Uh, who's to know whether that deal would have had worse problems or better problems? But again, it's sort of the learnings that I've had on this one. I'd like to think that it makes any future deal a lot easier, just in terms of, well, I hope anyway, the issues that have come up. So, yeah, I've got no regrets about doing it. I think the measures that we took to pivot halfway through and invest a bit more cash to make sure it's a good product, I think is absolutely the right way, and the correct decision that we've made. So I'm looking forward to it, seeing how it performs, and sort of seeing those decisions be
Excellent.
returned to me in that
Sure,
sense.
absolutely. That's what it's all about, making a bit of money. So, some
Exactly.
fire questions for you. What's the first
Um,
thing you do when you land back in the UK?
Depends which airport I land at, but it's getting an M&S sandwich. That's the
Oh,
first thing, and then
really?
it would be quickly followed by seeing family, most likely.
Okay,
So we're dotted around the UK, so it would be heading to one of their places.
sure, sure. Do you have a favourite trend in HMOs right now?
Um, not sure on trend, but I do like, obviously, all the accounts and the people I follow. The level of styling and detail that goes in these days is something that sort of plays on my interior design uh, sort of strings that I do love. And particularly what I've tried to do with my deal is get 3 studio style rooms in there as well. So that's something that I've seen quite a bit of, and I tried to
Yeah.
implement in mine as well.
Excellent. One word to describe that first deal.
Unique.
Indeed. The most underrated skill in property investing.
I think not just property investing. I feel that this in my day job is communication.
Yeah,
Communication, working with people. Most problems I feel arise are down to lack of communication or bad communication. So, yeah, I think it's definitely
that's a
underrated.
great answer. Is there a myth in property that you'd like to bust?
Things will go to plan. I think there's always there's going to be a scale to it, right? I think there's always going to be something that will crop up. I think it's just putting your mindset in how do we deal with it and how do we tackle the problem. I think that's something that I don't know if I'd really, listened to like a lot of these myths, but I think the understanding that it never goes to plan is probably a good frame of mind to be in order to then deal with
Yeah.
stuff. So you're
Plan
not
for
really
the
surprised as
unexpected.
often. Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Who or what inspires you?
My wife and soon to be children, obviously, we've got number 2 on the way. So yeah, those are my biggest inspiration, definitely.
Excellent. That's lovely. Um, do you have a particular way you like to unwind at the end of a stressful day?
Honestly, call me boring, but it's genuinely just sofa, Netflix, just watching a good series and or a movie. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
doing a lot of it
something
at the moment with
sweet.
Dubai summer and the heat, and obviously, final stages of my wife's pregnancy. So yeah, definitely a good series is keeping
Yeah.
us going at the
I think
moment.
you're right. Sometimes I think you just need to switch off and have a bit of
Yeah,
chewing gum for the brain.
exactly.
Absolutely. So finish this sentence for me. Property from abroad has taught me.
Cost to value mindset, and the most important thing is investing in the right team and get that right. It's a lot easier.
Absolutely. And finally, 3 words to describe your business, Hazel Green Homes.
I would say curated, honest, and personal.
Oh, I love that. Brilliant. Okay. So where do you see it going next then, Zach?
So I think 2026 is definitely about the pipeline, scaling multiple deals, taking the learnings from this deal, and acquiring a few more HMOs. That's definitely the short term, and then longer term, it'll sort of be creating spaces, whether that's different strategies, but trying to create spaces that we're proud of and that we're happy for our tenants to sort of live in. So it's definitely we're working on a lot of that at the moment with our vision and clarity, strategy, and everything. And it's something that's really resonated with us, is that we want our product to be standing out and spaces that people want to be in and feel at home in.
Excellent. So if people want to reach out to you for a word of advice or to learn more about your journey, how can they get hold of you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Hazel Green _homes, and yeah, that showcases our journey. I'm on Facebook as Zac Gould. I don't really post too much on LinkedIn purely because of my day job, but don't want conflicts of interest and everything. But
Yeah.
so yeah, but I'm happy to obviously chat with. I mean, I've got. I do quite a lot of networking and staying in touch with people back in the UK anyway, and expats abroad, just because it's always just to hear of other people's experiences and share my story as well, really. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Zac, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Danielle. Really appreciate it. Take care.
Excellent. So if you would like to know more about Zac's journey, then do get in touch. But if you've got any questions in the meantime, then do feel free to send me a message as well. And of course, if you're doing your first deal and would like to feature on this podcast, then do get in touch. Look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you for listening to First Deal Diaries. This episode is brought to you by Salty Air Design, where story meets design and brands breathe deep. See you next time for another First Deal story.